What's up, guys? It's me, Alexander Jarvis from alexanderjarvis.com, founder of Falls. So this is the 9th video in the e-commerce financial model training course, and this one should hopefully be a doozy. It's an important one though, and we'll be going through your SKU sheet. Now, firstly, if you don't know, SKU stands for stock keeping unit. It's basically the stuff that you sell. So if you've got 100 pair of sneakers on your store and that's what you sell, you have 100 SKUs. Now, there's two main concepts that I want to go through. Firstly, to make sure you internalize it. One is new versus repeat customers, and the secondary is going to be outright versus consignment. So I split things out. So there are different assumptions for new customers and repeat customers. And it's also broken out for outright and consignment. So my assumption is, although it can be different for whatever is your business and based on your experience, is that new customers might have a different repurchase profile than repurchase customers, right? So let's just say people have never shopped from you before, they don't know you from Adam. So they just want to see, like, is the quality of your cotton good? Are your sneakers legit? Are your watches real? Or whatever it is that you're selling in your e-commerce company. So they might buy a lower priced item just to kind of see how it works. Or maybe they buy less items to see what the quality is like so that they can then potentially repurchase more in future from you. So if you need to, and you understand it, you can set a different profile for your initial purchases and for your repeat purchases, okay? And I'll explain how to do that in a second. I just want to conceptualize things first. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to dealing with the difference between outright and consignment. Again, if you don't know, I'll learn you. So outright means, I don't know, whatever. Say I sell sneakers. I sell you the sneakers up front. They're yours. You can't return them to me unless there's some specific term. Whereas, let's say you're more experienced, you've been in the business for a while, you have good supplier relationships, they may put goods on consignment from you, which means that you don't have to pay for them up front. You pay them on whatever schedule as you sell the things, and potentially you can even return them. So in my personal experience, having built a very large e-commerce company before, outright is typically how you start. Consignment is where you try and get to because there's some beneficial working capital benefits from it. However, if you also have cash, it may actually make more sense to buy more outright since you potentially will have a higher margin. But that's going to depend on your supplier negotiations. Okay, I just wanted to kind of get the big picture stuff clear for you because I don't know what level you are, right? So that when I explain this now, hopefully you'll get it a lot better, a lot faster. So as usual in the model, we'll have a little guide which explains what's happening here. We'll see a summary, which other sheets will be linked to. So we'll see that this goes off into the cohort sheet, which is this one, the cohort build, right? But your SKU sheet is really going to be setting up how many SKUs you have when you bring them on, when you're putting them off, the types of products you're selling, what is the pricing points and the cost basis for that, which ultimately, once you multiply that by revenue generated or orders generated by your customers, is going to create your revenue. So the first section we're going to look at is the SKU forecast part here. And we have your beginning SKUs, new SKUs, removing SKUs, or taking them offline, whatever, and your ending. So beginning plus new less removed SKUs equals your ending SKUs. So let's just delete this stuff here. Okay, so we have 0 SKUs, and we have like a disappointed Excel saying there's a div problem here, okay? So let's say, I don't know, we're just starting out, we have no products, but in the first month, we plan on adding 5. We don't plan on deleting any, well, we'll have 5 at the end of the month. Also, technically 5 at the end of the year, the way this works. So let's say next month we go hunting and we find more people to supply us products. We'll add 10 more SKUs. Next month, we could maybe add 20 SKUs. But I'd say the original 5 that we had are now out of season or out of stock. Well, we want to get rid of them. So we just type in 5, and those ones that we had will disappear. So at the start of the month, we had 15, we added 20, we took away 5, and therefore we have 30. All right, so 15 plus 20 equals 35, less 5 equals 30. And you can do the same thing. But you can think about it if you want in terms of seasons. So you're going to be adding new stock, and at the end of the season, you'll be taking the stock offline, potentially, unless it's evergreen stock, I don't know, your stupid fidget spinners, and you just keep selling them. So one way you could approach that if you're an existing business that has 200 SKUs is you could say, well, my period is, I don't know, January, March, April, May, June. I don't know, here. All right, cool. We're going to add in 250 new SKUs, and we're going to delete the 200 that we had. And then 3 quarters later, we're going to add 250 new SKUs, and we're going to delete the 250 that we had from that previous period. And you could basically copy that across if you wanted to, or however you think about that seasonality. So why do you really care about the number of SKUs that are going to be coming here? Well, you're going to have to photograph them, right? Do your content writing, etc., to put them online. That is going to be a cost, which is going to be hopefully in your expense calcs under the photo shoot cost somewhere down at the bottom, right? In sourcing, outsourcing, photography stuff here, right? So as you're bringing new SKUs on and off, there is a cost associated with them. And in my experience, that can be a big pain in the bum. And your customers appreciate good quality photos and content. So there really is going to be a cost associated with it. So the main benefit around this is being able to understand the costs that are going to be associated with you taking them on. Now, this model, it's big, but I haven't gone completely overboard because it would like warp your fragile little minds, right? So you can potentially add more layers of complexity if you have a complicated business, but really, if you're aware of costs, there are ways of baking them into certain places to inflate those costs to reflect the realities. The main reason you're going to be forecasting your SKUs is for the associated costs which come with them. And then obviously being able to explain to investors your thinking around how you'll be adding or removing SKUs on your site over time, potentially. Cool. Now, the next part is we're going to be figuring out the pricing point that you're going to sell your stuff. And again, that's based on the new and the repeat basis for the products you're going to sell. So I always structure things up as basic, premium, pro, or shoes, apparel, accessories in the case of e-commerce. So your business may be different. It could be low-priced t-shirts, mid-priced t-shirts, and super high-end drops. However you want to think about it, you can always put things into 3 buckets. Because then, if you have, say, 6 or 10 different buckets because you want to be really finicky, it's hard for you to really define things properly. It's hard for investors or third parties to understand what's happening. You can always simplify things in some sort of way. Basic, premium, pro. Cheap shit, reasonably priced shit, really expensive shit. However you want to do. So you can always fit it into 3. All right, like I have people like, oh, but I have 4. I'm like, Mary, like, can't you just somehow figure out how to put it in number 2? It's like, yeah, I guess I can. You can, okay? So we're going to be dealing with new customers and the pricing points that we're going to be selling these things out. Okay, so first off, we're going to categorize them. So let's say if we only sell shoes, we set this at 0, this at 100%, and we only sell shoes. You see it's 100%? I'll hide this away, all right? So we only sell shoes. So if you only got one category, that's it. But if you really want to be finicky about someone who just sells sneakers, you could say, well, I've got medium, low, and high price shoes. So I want to have different profiles for them. So realistically, don't just stick one assumption or one bucket. Try and have 3. And so it's always 1 minus. You see, 1 minus the sum. So you're never going to sell more than, it's never going to be more than 100%. So if it's not just 100% here, we'll say, I don't know, we sell a lot of shoes, 40%. Still a bit of apparel, but not really. So realistically, 40% of that is accessories. 1 minus equals this. Now, let's say you want to change this over time. Well, you just copy this cell across to whatever period in time that you're going to change it up and say, well, in future, we're going to focus more on shoes and a lot on apparel. And so only 10% is going to be coming from accessories. So then based on the pricing points, which we're going to be dealing with next, your average basket size will be different. And that's ultimately what we're looking at, weighted unit prices, which you can see here, right? Or here, both places. So that's how you can change around. If you don't like it, you can press and use the same formulas by pressing Control-R or Control-R again, or just by copying and pasting the formulas, Control-C, Control-V over, right? You see I use keyboards a lot. That's how I roll. Bad boy ex-investment banker. God, I'm such a nerd. So, corny jokes. So now we're going to be setting up the sales prices for new customers. So, I mean, these people are typically on average going to be buying our $90 shoes, $40 kind of priced apparel, and $60 and $40 price accessories. Or you could say, I don't know, like our apparel is actually quite expensive, so it's 500. Our shoes are $650. Our accessories are like Supreme bricks, which actually I don't know how much they charge, but yeah. So you set the prices to whatever you want them to be. Again, if you want that to change over time, over multiple, like every other month, again, you can steal the formatting and stick it wherever you want. Or to say, look, it's just going to, for simplicity, it's going to stay the same. So therefore, we just round across. And then we'll be looking at the annuals to see what the average is, average if function, and see that it's consistent. Whereas if you change it around, these numbers will become different. So let's just do that. I'll change this to whatever, 1,000, 1,500, whatever the number is, 450, 456, and you can see that becomes, the averages become different, and that's what it is. All right, but that's how you can change the assumptions as you like. Okay, now for our repeat customers, do they buy different categories of products? Do they buy more shoes or accessories or apparel or whatever your categories are? Bear in mind, you just type them in once in this place and they change everywhere. So, I don't know, let's say we sell cats, dogs, and food. See, all the titles change. So it sells prices. Okay, so is there a different category mix of the products you're going to sell for repeat customers? Because maybe you get them for accessories and then you upsell them to apparel in the future. I don't know, that's up to you, right? But you can do it. Now, is the sales price going to be different for these new customers' purchases, first purchase? Maybe they might buy your Nikes for $100, but then they buy your Balenciagas for $650. It depends how it works and what your logic and your experience is. But you can change these over time. And again, like you can change pricing points over time so that, as I said, just by copying these again, you can set them to whatever you want. But again, yellow boxes, so it makes it easy to see where the assumptions are written in, as opposed to kind of like typing in 1, 2, 3, and then it's hidden in, and you don't know that you changed an assumption because it's not a formula anymore. Okay, so now that we've set out the pricing point, which we're going to sell things, we're going to be dealing with the cost basis for these products. All right, and so we have the new and we have repeat for outright. In the next section, we're going to repeat that again, whether or not you have consignment products. Okay. So very simply, same logic applies for the. Let's do the outright first. What is the cost basis for these products? So I don't know, if on average your shoes cost you $30 and you sell them for $90, well, it's $30. If on average your apparel is 28, your accessories are 10, fantastic. If you're buying Balenciagas, you sell them for $650 and you get them for $350, well, you type in on average we sell $650, on average we sell them for $350. And you fill those in for each of those categories then. And you do it on the new basis and the repeat basis. So if people are going to be buying more expensive products, do you have higher or less margin for those products? You need to know what those numbers are. So you just put in what the cost basis on average for the products are on the new and repeat basis for outright. And for consignment, you do exactly the same thing. And if those are going to change over time, or your category mix is going to change to selling different brands, then you're going to want to change the average selling price and the associated cost basis for those. And those are going to determine what your gross profit margins are going to be, which is going to be revenue less your COGS, or the cost of actually selling these products. It's e-commerce 101. So if you want to look at the charts, you can see of how things are trending, if there's anything weird that you've noticed, but that's basically it. Okay, guys, so in the next video, we'll be going through the marketing sheets, which is going to be a big chunky video. And then the final video we'll be doing is just going through the whole model and checking that you got it right. Cool, bye.